Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, so today we're going to explore something fundamental, yet honestly, almost completely ignored. Look, in our world, we spend so much time absolutely obsessing over how to win, right? But today, we're going completely in the other direction. We are going to unpack the architecture of how to lose, and more importantly, how to lose well. Now, let me set the stage right out of the gate here. This is not some fluffy motivational talk trying to turn every single loss into a cozy little life lesson. Nope. We are looking at losing as a strict, deliberate practice.
Okay, let's dive into this. The core premise of our entire explainer today is just this one phrase. Losing is a skill, and almost nobody treats it that way. I mean, really think about that for a second. Most of us, we treat losing as a total failure, right? A stumbling block, or just some terrible accident that we need to quickly recover from and forget. But what if we completely shifted our perspective? What if losing is actually one of the absolute most important skills you can develop in any high-stakes practice, especially in things like trading or investing? Because, honestly, the cold hard truth is this. An operator who cannot lose well will eventually let those losses get way, way bigger than they were ever designed to be.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive divide between the amateur and the professional. The amateur treats a loss as a highly emotional event. It's something to be minimized, survived, or desperately explained away to save ego. Basically, they flinch. The professional, on the other hand, treats a loss as something to be executed. Literally executed. They bring the exact same precision, the exact same discipline, and the exact same deliberate attention to a losing position as they do to a massive winning one. The pro understands that if you cannot lose well consistently, well, you simply can't win consistently either. Those poorly managed losses, they're just going to keep compounding like wildfire until they wipe out the whole shebang. Let's move into Section 1, Anatomy of a Perfect Loss. That brings us to our first major reframe. Now, I know it sounds completely contradictory. How on earth can a loss be perfect? But listen, this is where the magic actually happens. We have to detach our evaluation of a decision from the financial outcome of that decision. Let's look under the hood at what a perfect losing trade actually looks like. Here are the absolutely strict criteria of a well-executed trade, completely ignoring whether it makes or loses money. First, the setup had to meet every single written criterion in your plan. Second, the entry was executed precisely at the specified level. Third, your stop loss was placed exactly where the plan dictated, not where your emotions felt safe, but where the cold logic demanded it be. Fourth, the position size was calculated strictly by your risk rules. And finally, the big one, when the stop was hit, the position was closed immediately. No negotiation, no staring at the chart hoping for a miracle bounce. The loss was just taken cleanly. So the crucial point is this: 4 out of 4. If you crack open your journal and you followed your process flawlessly, guess what? That trade scores a perfect 4 out of 4. Yes, obviously, that trade lost money, but that trade was a perfect trade. Why? Because you executed your system with complete precision, and the market simply produced an adverse outcome, which, by the way, is just statistically inevitable anyway. You didn't fail, you just flawlessly executed a single data point in a probability distribution that will eventually confirm your edge. If you can look at a cleanly taken loss and actually feel competence instead of total defeat, man, you are playing a totally different game than everyone else out there. Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds into our next core concept, the Stoic honorable defeat. To really, truly internalize this ability to execute a perfect loss, we actually need to look backwards, like way backwards. We're going to draw on some ancient philosophy to back up this very modern high-stakes mindset. Because honestly, the ancients understood something about winning and losing that our modern culture has basically entirely forgotten. The Stoics actually had a brilliant concept for this. They called it kalos kagathos, which translates to the beautiful and the good. It's this powerful idea that true excellence is determined purely by the quality of the action that produced it, not the outcome. Think about an ancient general. If that general fought with complete virtue, brilliant strategy, and absolute courage, but still lost the battle just due to overwhelming odds, the Stoics considered him far more excellent than a general who won merely through dumb luck. The outcome didn't determine the excellence, the execution did. The great Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius totally embodied this. Look, this guy faced massive defeats, military, political, personal, defeats that absolutely no amount of positive thinking could just magically reframe his victories. But he evaluated himself solely on his adherence to his principles. He wrote, "Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect." He didn't judge his own worth based on the battles he won or lost.
He judged it on whether he acted with full virtue and full reason while he was in the fight. Now, applying that ancient wisdom directly to our modern trading, we get a really stark contrast. An honorable loss means your stop is respected and your rules are followed. Every single time you do this, you are actually making a solid deposit into your self-respect account. On the flip side, a dishonorable win means you move your stop, you break your rules, you hold way past your exit criteria, and maybe, just maybe, it eventually recovers and you actually make money. But listen to me, that financial win is a total illusion, because behind the scenes, you just made a massive withdrawal from your self-respect account. And self-respect isn't just a warm, fuzzy feeling. It is the concrete, accumulated evidence of your own integrity. So that brings us to section 3, 5 practices to lose well. All right, the philosophy is absolutely powerful, but we really need to make this actionable. We know losing well is a practice, right? So how do we actually cultivate it? Let's walk right through our tactical playbook, the specific concrete steps you can take to build the capacity of that Stoic operator we were just talking about. Practice number 1 is the pre-loss acceptance ritual. Before you even enter a trade, and I mean literally before you click buy, not after the loss hits, you must explicitly accept the loss. You look at the math, and you actually say to yourself, okay, the stop is at X, the total loss of hit is Y dollars. I accept the loss of Y dollars as the necessary cost of participating in this probability distribution. This is the classic Stoic premeditatio. By pre-accepting the exact dollar amount of the worst-case scenario up front, you completely strip the loss of its psychological power to shock and destabilize you later on. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is practice 2, the stop as a commitment. Think about it. A stop loss is not just a random price level on a screen. It's a promise. It is a sacred promise made by your calm, rational mind before the trade to your stressed, heavily pressured mind during the trade. Keeping that promise isn't just basic risk management. It is a profound act of personal integrity. Breaking it? Well, that's a broken promise to yourself in the exact moment you needed your own discipline the absolute most. When you start framing your stop losses as promises, just watch how quickly your urge to move them completely disappears. Moving right along to practice 3, the immediate post-loss protocol. The very millisecond your stop is hit, you need to execute this exact sequence. Ready? 1. Close the position. 2. Close the chart immediately. 3. Open your journal. 4. Score your process out of 4. And 5. Step physically away from the screen for at least 30 seconds. Now you might be wondering, why is this so incredibly rigid? Because this sequence acts as a physical and psychological circuit breaker. It is specifically designed to aggressively interrupt that reactive loop that leads straight from taking a loss into making a disastrous emotional revenge trade. It forces you to process the loss logically rather than amplifying it. Practice 4 is the weekly loss review. But notice something here. This is not a profit and loss review. It's a loss quality review. At the end of the week, you look at every single losing trade, and you ask yourself, how many of these were actually well executed? Your target here is a 90% well-executed loss rate. Hitting that number is a vital, trackable, key performance indicator. Think about it. If 90% of your losses are well executed, meaning your sizing was correct and your stops were honored, you are building a massive edge, basically regardless of your actual win rate, because your psychology, it remains completely intact. Finally, we have practice 5, the reframe of the well-executed loss. After you take a perfect loss, you need to write a single private sentence of recognition in your journal. You literally write down, the stop was honored, the promise was kept, that was a good trade. You don't post it online, you definitely don't perform it for anyone else. It is private evidence recorded just for you that you are holding your standard high regardless of whatever the market decided to do. Over time, all that private evidence accumulates into unbreakable self-trust. You reach a point where you no longer need the market to cooperate just to know that you're doing your job excellently. Section 4, your losing well rate. We've covered the anatomy, the philosophy, and the 5 tactical practices. Now it is time to turn the mirror squarely on you and measure your own performance, not by your bank account, but by your discipline. I want to leave you with this final provocative question, and I want you to seriously think about this right now. Of your last 10 losing trades, how many were well executed? How many had the stop honored, the rules followed, and the journal perfectly written before the next trade even opened? Count them up. Whatever that number is out of 10, that's your losing well rate. And I'll tell you right now, if it's below 70%, your trading strategy is not the problem. How you are executing your losses is the problem. So your homework after this explainer is to go calculate that rate for yourself. Raise your losing well rate. And I promise you, everything else will follow. Thank you so much for joining me today, and keep executing those losses perfectly.